right, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are today. Thank you and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Adam Kurtz and I'll be stepping you through today's webinar. Today we'll be concentrating on Stratum Viewer, the web interface, and basic concepts, essentially how to use it, how to access it. We'll talk quite a bit about the overall application, the different areas of the application when you get into it, views and view groups, how to run a view, how to read a view, how to navigate a view. So very basic today, right? So we just want to just cover off on some very basic concepts so that, we know how to use this interface. We know some of the basic fundamentals of using the Stratum Viewer interface. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll kind of get started on some of these concepts. Today I'll be using the latest versions, version 7.3, but the concepts are the same. Essentially, the menus might look slightly different, but currently you're looking at the current 7.3 version. And so basically web, the viewer interface, as we all know, it's a web interface. So we open up a browser of our choice. We like Chrome. We recommend using Chrome. And so that's what I'm using here. And then I've got my web address to the application. So this is obviously going to be different based on your environment. So, whatever your URL you're using to access your application, obviously you'll type that in. You might even store that to your favorites so that it, comes up very easily under your bookmarks. But this is something your IT department can supply for you, and so that you can get access to the application. Now, when you get into it, you might get prompted for a user ID and password. Normally, this is your network user ID and password that you typically log into your machine on every day. That's normally what you would use. Now, if you're a cloud customer, that's obviously a different scenario. So that would be the user ID and password that's been assigned to you. We are looking into ways to integrating that into single sign-on, but that's not a reality just yet. So basically, so you have a URL, you hit it with your browser, you log in, or it automatically logs you in depending on your browser settings. So getting into Stratum, pretty simple. It's like hitting a website. We all know how to do that today. So once you're in, you get a home page, right? And you'll see your customer logo populate there. And then you'll also see some announcements and some things that you can gain access to, such as an ongoing running schedule of the upcoming Insight courses. Today, we're covering off, like I said, Intro to Stratum for new users. So that's exactly what we'll be discussing today. This will get continued in a few more weeks with a part 2, and then into some simple calculations. So, we're continuing a series of getting users acclimated and into the application as needed. So that's there. You'll have an ongoing area there that you can click in on and get more of a synopsis of what the course entails. As you can see, you can add it to your calendar and get that reminder out there so that you can continue with these classes. I mean, this is education that we provide as part of your annual maintenance. So, why not take advantage of it, right? Right here, we've got the customer forum. So we've got different articles and inputs from resources here at Sylvan and from customers doing different things with the interface. How can I control a number of rows and columns? Can I have a dashboard or multiple views, et cetera, et cetera? So you've got some really good stuff here that you can review and read through, and even chime in yourself, contribute, and get involved with the user community. The blog, this is something that we provide as part of our expertise. We've got in-house experts on different areas of the product. So we have a Sylvan blog that you can step into and read further on different areas of tips and techniques and white papers, etc. Here to the right, we see training videos. So if we click in on that, we can get into some basic training videos that we can start educating ourselves on these different areas of stratum. These show up as views, or I'm sorry, YouTube videos, and they allow you to gain access to all the different areas and are basically our YouTube channel. So that's what those do, and that gives you access to the different training videos, quick tips, demos, and then our different channels on social media. And that's the homepage itself. So quite a bit, right? I mean, so you got quite a bit to discover there, and make sure you review that as needed. Over here on the left-hand side, we see how we get access to our reports. So we call them views. And so here on the left side, we see a menu here for our favorites, our recents, and for all of our view groups. Now, if you're running a prior version, you'll have a pop-up menu that will show you your favorites and recents. But the concept is the same. I can favorite any view that I want to favorite and star, so that I can gain access to it much easier and run the view from here. The recent tab shows me what I've recently run. So your pop-up on the previous version will show the same thing, basically a running tally of the views that I've run. Here are all the views that I have access to as a user. So here you can see all the different view groups that I have access to, where I can then open these up and run a view here as well. So you've got different areas to run views, your favorites, your recents, or you can just go out and pick a view that you want to run. For my favorites, I can actually drag and drop this around if I wanted to. So if I want to put comparative sales there up top, I can have a priority. I can dictate my priority here in my favorites view group. But that's the only area I can really do that. The other ones are fixed. How do we run the view? Well, you click on it. So here I'm running a view on comparative sales. The view runs, it replaces the home screen with the view itself. And so typically the view could either be a data grid or a chart, or both for that matter. My particular view, comparative sales, happens to be a data grid. So first and foremost, how do we read a view? What does it mean? What is this thing? What is it telling me? Well, first and foremost, we see the navigational area up here. So we see that division is blue and it says all. Well, that basically means that division is now currently visible on my data grid. So it's highlighted in blue. And then secondly, it's telling me that I'm looking at all of my divisions. So I'm not really drilled in on anything. I'm basically looking at company-wide data here. Now, remember, your security might be kicking in here. So you may not be able to see all of the company's data. You might be filtered on your sales rep ID or your territory ID as well. So keep in mind that that might be happening within your environment. So the navigational area, I can certainly use that if I wanted to drill down further, or I can just click in on the divisional dimensions here and perform a simple drill down. But before we do that, let's read out the view. Let's unpack this a little bit. So basically we have all of our divisions. We've got what appears to be a running rolling monthly comparison. We also appear to have a current month comparison with a percent change. And then we also then over here have a year-to-date comparison with a percent change. So this is almost like a live Excel spreadsheet that you can drill in on. It's very pivot table-esque, and you can behave as such, so that I can just drill in on that. Now, of course, I could drag and drop these around. If I don't like the positioning of this, you could drag and drop these around. I can put these columns basically anywhere I want by dragging and dropping them. So if you're not happy, with the initial view and you want to maybe do some rearranging, you can do that, just by simply dragging and dropping around the columns. Before I do any drill downs, we can see clearly up here what our drill down pattern, our path is going to be. My next drill down is going to be at the product brand, and then onto the product salesperson, and so on and so forth. And this is drag and droppable. So if I want to maybe go to my sales rep after or my sold tos after my brand. I will dictate what my navigational pattern is going to be here. So this is drag and droppable as well. So don't be afraid to drag and drop. Okay, so let's do some drilling. If I wanted to then drill in on the food service division, I can then click in on the F, the code for food service, and it does perform my drill down. I just performed a drill down from the food service division down to the product brand level. Pretty simple. We can then see up here in the navigational area that both the division is and product brand are now coded and colored as blue, meaning that they are now visible within the data grid here. Also, we notice that if by clicking in on the food service division, it did put the code F up there. That's what we clicked in on. So that from a navigational standpoint, I can see clearly that we're filtered on both within the data grid and the navigational area, we're filtered on the food service division. So this tells me a lot. This navigational up here really is helpful. Now, before we do anything further, perhaps I might want to do some sorting. So, in this case, you might get to an area where you've got a fair amount of rows. 14 rows really isn't that much, but I could certainly start my sorts here if I wanted to. Maybe I want to see who the top sales are for product brand for year-to-date sales. So I could come over here to my year-to-date column, and if I right-click on that column header, I will get a menu where I can then pursue my sorting. So by selecting sort in descending fashion, I can see that a sort has now been applied. I get a visual cue telling me that there's a sort here on this particular column. And I can see that Farm Fresh now is my top product brand. Now, drilling in on Farm Fresh even further, I can then see that the sort stays alive as I drill down. So rest assured that Good Foods, Sumter, these are some of my top accounts for this year's sales. For the food service division, for Farm Fresh. So everything, as you can see, fills in here, telling me what my filters are based on my selections and my drill downs. And again, everything concurs up here in the navigational area as well. My visual cue is telling me that I've got a descending sort. If I click on that, it actually flips it upside down, and now I can see that some of the bottom feeders in terms of my sold to for this area. Okay, if I want to move the sort, maybe I want to see what this rolling sales is doing, then I could sort that in descending fashion, and now I could see that the sort has been moved over to this particular measuring column. Okay. So how do I get back? How do I then drill back? How do I, pick on another division? Again, I can click back in on the F. I can use my navigational area. Either way, it gets me back to the divisional level and to all of my divisions, where then I can then either click in on the grocery store, or I can actually click in on division. So what does that do? Well, clicking in on the header actually drills in on both of my divisions in this case. Now be careful here. If you're at the ship to and you click on the header and you go to invoice, well, probably not the best thing to do in terms of navigation. It's probably just going to grind on you. So these are things that are best served for high to intermediate levels, where you can create these incredible looking subtotal reports very easily. If you then need to get to the detail, then you can pick and choose your entity that you want to go to next. But that's drilling in on the header. So as you can see, I can either drill in and select a specific entity, such as grocery. I can drill back, or just drill in on division, and it then drills in on both food service and grocery and gives me a subtotal break for each one of my divisions. So that's pretty slick and pretty easy to do. And that's a bit on the drilling piece. You can also sort on the actual dimensions. So if I wanted to maybe sort this description column, again, I'm going to right click on that header of my description column, and I'm going to sort that in a alphabetical fashion. So now I'm actually sorting on a descriptive field. I could sort on the actual customer sold to number as well. Maybe I want to see that in numerical fashion. Well, I can certainly do that. So as you can see, the sorting is very flexible. I can sort on a dimension, I can sort on any one of my columns over here, including my calculation column. I've got a couple of calculations over here that I could sort on as well. If I sort over here on my year-to-date sales, I can then see the top growing accounts, which happens to be an account that we haven't talked about or seen, such as Maple Tree Foods or Penn Brands. These are accounts that are growing, some of my top growing accounts, because I'm sorted now on the calculated column of growth or percent sales change. And I do that in descending fashion. I can see the biggest gap between this year and last year's sales. So just simple, intermediate drill downs, simple sorting. I can make some pretty educated, I don't even want to call them assumptions, because these are fact-based, decisions at this point, as opposed to assumptions, right? So that's the sort, in terms of drilling and doing some sorting, obviously, those are things that you can do, pretty simple, right? And then another thing that you can actually go in on is filtering. So another concept here is that maybe I want to filter on certain product brands, or maybe I want to filter on a measure. I can then pick and choose different things that I want to filter on as well. Currently, as you can see, our filter icon is not illuminated. So normally when I have a filter associated or already saved within the view, this will be illuminated and then telling the user that indeed there's a filter going on, but there's no filters right now because the filter icon is not illuminated. So let's go ahead and add one. In the same vein or the same concept here, I can right click product brand. And so in this case, instead of sort, I'm going to select my filtering criteria. So I'm going to do a filter edit, and I can drag and drop this over here and wherever I feel comfortable with, and I can select which product brands that I want to create the filter on. So I can simply just select them here, click OK, and apply the filter. So now I've just done a filter on my product brand level. We can see that the filter here, if I hover over it, it will tell me that we've indeed selected Farm Crisp, Farm Fresh, and First Choice within our filter criteria. Up here, we see that the filter icon has been illuminated, telling us that indeed there is a filter. If I click in on that, it's redundant, but it tells me the same thing. It's telling me that indeed I've got a filter going on at the product brand level, and those are the different product brands that I selected. Within this menu here, I can actually manage the filter. So if I wanted to maybe just get rid of the filter, I can actually just click on the X, and I can then delete the filter if I want to. If I click OK here, I'm back to square one. If I wanted to edit or change the filter, I can then go in for the product brand or any other level for that matter and reapply that filter, or maybe include another product brand that I forgot to include. So now I'm actually changing the filter, clicking OK, and now the filter, as you can see, has been changed. Instead of just 3 brands, I'm now including the 4 brands. And then another really cool feature as part of 7.3 is the exclude option. Maybe I don't want these items in my filter. Maybe I just want these excluded from my view. So now you've got this really cool toggle of whether you should include or exclude these items from your product brand filter. So that's really cool and very handy. So again, I can manage this at any level that I have within my view. I can then change the filter toggle to either include these members or exclude them. And certainly I can delete or add more to the filters areas here as well. Now you might notice over here it says data. Then you can filter on a data item as well, or a measure. And we're going to do that next. I click OK, and there's my new filter. It just added in home cooking. Okay. How do I get rid of the filter? Well, we already know that we can go in here and get rid of it, right? So that's one way to do that. And I could just click on the X and boom, you're done, right? I can also come here, right click on it and go to back into my filter right click menu and clear it here as well. So you've got different, redundancies, right? Of different areas that you can do the same thing. Now, what happens if we want to filter on a data item? So for instance, my year-to-date sales column over here, maybe I want to see sales over a certain amount, or maybe I want to see top 5 product brands. Well, I can accomplish that by right-clicking. Similarly, for my sorting, I can do the same thing here on for the filter on my right-click menu as well. So by selecting filter edit on that column header, I then get this menu where I'm able to select an operator or a condition, and then my value. So for instance, if I want to see sales over a certain number, then I can come in here and type in sales over 8 million and click OK. It'll then pare down the list to those only making the cut, anything over 8 million. So now I've applied that filter, I hover over it, it tells me indeed that filter is for actual sales column over 8 million. There's my filter icon, it's been illuminated, and if I go to my data column, it'll tell me indeed that I've got that filter applied there for my sales amount column year to date. And again, I can do the same thing here. I can manage that here. Notice the exclude item is now gone because that's not relevant here at the data level, measure item data level. Okay. So again, the same concept here. I can get rid of it. I can change it. I can just click in on it. If I just click on it, it brings me back to this menu where I defined it, and I can change that to any one of these. Maybe less than or equal to a certain amount. Top count. So let's talk a little bit about what that is. If I wanted to see my top 5 brands, then I can go ahead and apply that. So now it's showing me my top 5 brands in terms of actual sales year to date. Right. If I drill that down, it's going to keep showing me the top 5. So these are my top 5 customers for the drill downs that I've chosen for food service and first choice. So that top 5 stays alive as you drill up and down the different dimensions that you have within your view. So you have the top 5, you got bottom counts, top percents. Maybe if I want to see the top 5%, well, that's just pares it down to one brand in this instance. If I drill that down to the customer sold to level, it's just one customer. That's the top 5%. If I widen that horizon out a little bit, maybe who are the top 25%, but still just that one customer. Top 50, and it starts including other customers. This is basically 50% of your sales for Farm Fresh. So cool games that you can play just by keeping things fairly simple. Little games that you can play with your filtering can be quite powerful. And if you're ready to just back to square one, you can just clear them out, click back to division, and well, you're back to square one essentially. So the navigation, as you can see, is quite simple. Once you start getting some of these fundamentals down, you can then start navigating back and forth, playing some games with filters, finding areas in your business where, quite honestly, you might find some areas that you could improve. You might find orders that you've missed. You might find pricing issues, orders that haven't shipped. Start looking and analyzing your data with such easy tools and such easy features. There's really no excuse not to find some of these issues. So, again, if you ever have to add in more dimensions, so, here we can see that I've got division, product brand, sold to, just a handful of dimensions. Well, guess what? I can click on my plus sign there and I can add in whatever I want, whatever I have access to is really what I should say. So if I want my ship tos in here, then I can go ahead and select my customer ship to, and it slips that right into the next level. It may not be the level maybe I don't want to go to that one next, but I can then dictate where I would go to ship to, right? Then I can go in, do my drill downs and drill down to my ship to level now that it's available. So getting down to granular levels of data, just a few clicks away, and you've got ship to and invoice levels of detail at your fingertips. So again, don't forget that you can add in, or you can certainly take these levels away. If I don't want a region, maybe I don't want sales rep in my view, then I can go ahead and get rid of some of the dimensions that I don't want here as well. So the navigational area is quite functional in terms of maintaining your dimensions there. And when it's all said and done, you can go ahead and click on your Save As button there on your toolbar icon, and you can save your view. If you've made some changes that you want to keep, then certainly you can save your view away as a personal or a shared view, and you can keep it for yourself or share it with your community and start collaborating with each other on the different areas of Stratum. Any questions? Open it up for any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself. Ask any questions. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you wanted to, or maybe you have some questions about some things you saw? Feel free to ask any questions as we wrap up. All right, well, I'll take that as a resounding no questions. There's a chat question, hold on. Oh, thank you very much. Thanks so much. Don't forget, in a couple more weeks, 2 weeks from today, we'll have a follow-up. We're going to talk about time more. So how do we change the time dimensions, and how do we deal with time ranges? We'll get more into time. Hold on, we have another chat. Oh, more thanks. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Question about setup of the view. Yeah. Okay. That's probably something we could talk about on the next one in terms of setting up building views from scratch.
Can I ask one question really fast?
Sure.
If I only have like 15 rows showing at a time, but there's many others because it's all the states.
Yeah, call the rows over here, the row counts. Yep, I'm with you.
You just have to scroll through the pages, or can you make them all show up?
Yeah, you can make them all show up. Let's see if I can get some scenario here. Hold on one second.
That's very basic, but
yeah. So right now, I think I have mine set up where it shows more than just 50 or whatever. But you'll get the row count up here. Yeah, certainly you'll get these arrows, and you can page through them. You also should get a show all over here, or some concept of a show all, where you can then click on that, and then it will return all of it, and then you should be able to scroll through all of it as well. And you can even freeze your pane so that it'll freeze here, and you can scroll through all of that as well. So that's a little more advanced, and we will talk a little bit more about how we can freeze that pane, so that when we get all of the rows, that we can scroll through it without losing context of the data.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.